I think as we grow and mature, we go through different stages of our life, both our physical life and our spiritual life. And I was just thinking about this today, and I was thinking how when we're children, we oftentimes want to please our parents. And we try to find maybe even our value and our identity in pleasing our parents, in receiving that affirmation. And then as we grow up, we kind of stop caring about what our parents think, and we start caring more about what others think, what our peers think, what our friends think. And then we move on. And I think many people, because they grow in maturity, they start caring what God thinks. And then there's, of course, those people that only care about what they think. But it's important to think about these stages because it's important to know what stage we're in and how we're living our lives. Who is our audience? Who are we trying to please? In the gospel, we hear those words of Jesus, and he says, all their works are performed to be seen. In other words, their whole focus was about receiving the applause of others. They cared too much about what their peers thought of them. All their works are performed to be seen. You know, I think one of the things that is so lost in the American culture and even the American church is why we do what we do. We've lost that spirit of authenticity. Of course, we love to volunteer for things, especially when we get recognized and we get patted on the back. But how do we live our faith in those places where no one's going to recognize us, where no one's going to see what we're doing? How many of us act in the same way outside our house that we do inside our house? In other words, in the view of others, or simply by ourselves? How do we live our faith authentically? Because we know that the Pharisees were those people that Jesus constantly, over and over and over, corrected. Because it was all about the appearance. It does not matter how many likes we get on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever, TikTok, and how many hundreds of other apps there are. Doesn't matter. What does God think of you? What does God think of you? You know, this other phrase in the gospel really caught my attention. He says, observe all the things they tell you, but do not follow their example. You know, as Christians, it's easy for us to know the moral law, even to preach it, correct others, but how do we live it? Could we take ourselves as an example and say what St. Paul says? He says, be imitators of me as I'm an imitator of Christ. And then here Jesus is saying, do the things they tell you, but don't follow their example. What is our example like to those we work with, to those we live with our family members, with our friends? How do we show an example of Christian love, of Christian faith? Only you know the answer. Amen.